hope things don't go down this path. I want a 50 series GPU. But if this new tax comes into effect, now could be a really savvy time to buy a PC rather than waiting. Let's break it down and break down this segue to our sponsor.
And I expect that game developers are going to be targeting current hardware for quite a few years while we wait for a new generation of consoles. So that 5090 probably won't be needed for a while. You know what we will need though, is this segue to our sponsor.
I think 2024 could go down as the single worst year in Intel's existence. So I thought it was only fitting then that this segue, this one that I'm dragging out right now, should be remembered as the worst segue.
Ridge. Black Friday might have just passed
Ever on this channel. Editor cut.
Just passed by, but Ridge is keeping the discounts coming. Get your holiday gifts in and save up to 40% at ridge.com/LTT.
Here, please. Thank you. So, the way that I see it, if we have to sacrifice Pat Gelsinger to summon our Dark Magician, well then, that's just the heart of the cards. Now I summon Pot of Greed, which lets me give you 3 segues to our sponsor. Well, as it turns out, there are at least a dozen different ways to buy, or not buy, Windows, ranging from free to almost $200. And we tried all of them, so you won't have to. We also tried to tell you about our sponsor. As for me, I'm waiting for Valve to release that new SteamOS before I dive down that rabbit hole again, which should be any time now. Val? This is getting awkward. While we wait, why don't you check out our sponsor?
Turns out, I really was just holding it wrong. And over time, there's a lot about iOS that I've learned to love even on my own. But there's also a lot that, well, to say how I really feel, I'd probably have to use language that might not sit well with my sponsor. Maybe we need some kind of cultural exchange program, you know, like 6 months of seeing how the other half lives. That could be a really interesting experiment. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go hide from some fanboys. Oh, but not before I tell you about our sponsor. To find out, we're gonna drag race it against both a $600 mini PC and tower desktop PC, while also discussing some of the pros and cons that you might gloss over if you take these devices at face value. But be sure not to gloss over our sponsor. And if that user happens to already own an iDevice, the Mac Mini gets a pretty big boost. The workflow of like airdropping and using iCloud between devices really is kind of magic sometimes. Just like this magic spell to take you to our sponsor. So, given how difficult it can be to access Cold War era spy equipment for many of you, we also grabbed this cheap bug detector off of Amazon to see which one works better. This one seems to be detecting a segue to our sponsor. Shut up. But the best countermeasure is just to look around for anything suspicious. We're gonna link to a couple of decent guides that we found on searching for spy equipment. Just like how I'm spying this segue to our sponsor. It's over there, you can't see, but it's there. Look, I can detect it.
With only their older generation selling at all, meaning that the Steam hardware survey is based on ancient sales and things are shifting big time. Yikes. So let's break down the chips y'all are buying and talk about why. And talk about our sponsor. I guess that's what happens when the closest thing to a competing product from Intel is a CPU that used to be a lake before it took something to the knee. What was it? Something, it was our arrangement to give you this message from our sponsor.
It would cost over $7 billion.
Excuse me? Is this some sort of scam? Who needs this on a USB? How does this thing even work? Well, I don't know, but I'm gonna get some answers right now. Where is she? Hey, where's our sponsor?
The bottom line is this tech is pretty cool. And if you've made it this far into a dense, nerdy video, you are too. So to reward you, and also to prove just how durable this thing is, we're gonna segue to our sponsor. Half the price of the same drives brand new. So, like any other sane person would, I immediately handed eBay my credit card information and ordered $10,000 worth of them. That's 60 drives. So you gotta be wondering, Linus, what's the catch? Come closer, and I'm gonna tell you. It's our sponsor.
Yeah, we also came across a pretty wild deal on some NVMe SSDs when we were researching this project. So happy deal hunting out there. For now, it's time for me to go hunting. It's Segue season. To our sponsor. All that's left is to see just how much water his story holds, and to find out what, if anything, can be salvaged from this wreckage. Oh, look at this. There's one thing that survived the impact. This Segue. To our sponsor. And she's gonna try again. She's not gonna try again. She's just off. I'm gonna try again.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's almost like you shouldn't throw your computer off of a third-story balcony.
It's almost like you should do this Segue to our sponsor.
Smile.
And we've come up with 5 tablets that won't waste your money or your time. And we found some big surprises. For one thing, budget tablet kingpin Amazon is nowhere on our list this time around. And for another, there's this surprise Segue to our sponsor. And on the subject of being tech savvy, this is by no means an exhaustive list. The budget sector is a fickle beast with sales and price drops, part swaps, and more. So let us know in the comments what options you tech savvy folks recommend. And in return, I'll let you know about our sponsor. But what we didn't expect was the discoveries we made along the way. So let's begin our journey to Lumino City by very carefully tearing down an LCD monitor. Right after this Segue to our sponsor. We beat them all, and I think we can do even better. Anyway, enough of that for now, though. I'm gonna go lie down in a dark room for a bit. My eyes are dying, and I'm dying to tell you about our sponsor. Spoiler alert, I don't really, but not because it's a bad TV. Let me show you why. First, everyone's favorite part, this Segue to our sponsor. Go ahead and buy it, but just do me a favor and use the link down below to buy it. Or hear me out, we will also have the Hisense UA linked down there. It's also a perfectly cromulent TV, and here's a perfectly cromulent Segue to our sponsor.